Okay, I think we're live. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the recent bill signed into law by our esteemed governor, which essentially legalizes infanticide. There are a lot of aspects of this issue to tackle, uh, not the least of which is the fact that you have a party that is in, is is glued to the idea of centralized, overweening government, federal government, now using a states' rights argument to justify murdering unborn children up to and after birth. But I just wanted to focus on the the uh, the lie that this exposes in terms of the constant reiteration of this mantra that supporters of abortion under any circumstances, any and all circumstances, are protectors of women's rights, and that they're the ones that want to protect the lives and the health of women. And in fact, one of the key provisions of this law is the inclusion the inclusion of a health provision. So a woman can have her unborn child killed up to birth under the kind of canard that her health is in danger, when in fact there are no cases where an abortion um, would save the life of a mother. And obstetricians, gynecologists, anyone who's reputable, who's not part of the abortion industrial complex will admit this, that there's no legitimate health reason to have a 8 or 9 month abortion, to abort a child at that late stage rather than deliver the child. And this is one of the main provisions, the fact that the inclusion of a health provision, just like the companion case to Roe v. Wade, Doe versus Bolton. It essentially legitimized abortion on demand by the inclusion of a provision for women's quote unquote health, which allowed sixth and seventh and partial birth abortions, the abortions that we see today, because any abortionist can manufacture a nebulous health reason to protect the woman's health. The irony is that women's if these people cared about women's health, they would not have been so eager to pass a bill that allows non-physicians to commit abortions. And that's what I'd like to focus on, the fact that they're allowing midwives, they're allowing people who are not licensed physicians to kill children. And what is, at least I would hope they would admit this much, is still a medical procedure. It's infanticide, but it's still a medical procedure. And what's going to happen is that you're going to see, if these don't exist already in New York State, which is a question, if they, but if they don't exist already, you're going to see more dozens and dozens of Kermit Gosnells. The whole idea perpetuated by Planned Parenthood and the abortion industrial complex was that Kermit Gosnell was an aberration, that he was not he was not the exemplar of the abortion movement. And to a certain degree, he was an aberration in the weirdness uh, of his practice. The fact that he had a completely unsanitary clinic with snapping turtles, and that he would eat in the middle of abortions. But other than that, he was a very standard abortion practitioner. And the idea that there aren't people that there aren't abortionists who are letting babies die is ridiculous. Another part of the bill is basically sanctioning. It basically sanctions, uh, for lack of a better word, infanticide. It allows babies who are born despite botched abortions to die and expire. And this is something that happens routinely. And there have been people like Gianna Jensen and people who've survived abortions testify to this. Something if an abortion is botched, and despite the assertions of protectors of abortion rights, there are a lot of botched abortions. And if abortion is botched, the babies are left to die. In fact, that's one of the key moments in the testimony during the Gosnell film, when a doctor who's performed thousands of abortions, who's kind of the antitype to Gosnell, this prim and proper abortionist, admits that yes, they let the babies die. She admits it under questioning from Gosnell's defense attorney. And that happens routinely. Um, and this is something that has been now been sanctioned by the state of New York. You're going to see a lot more 3801 Lancasters, which was the address of the clinic that Kermit Gosnell operated. Once this um, once this law is fully implemented, you're going to see untrained, uneducated people, just like the high school dropouts and the drug addicts that worked at Kermit Gosnell's clinic. You're going to see them performing abortions and infanticide in New York State, snipping, and that was one of the other horrific revelations of the Gosnell trial. You had these people who were not doctors snipping the necks of babies, not fetuses or human life in utero. You had babies born alive who were having their necks snipped, and that's something you're just going to have to uh, accept if you live in New York, as I do. You're going to have to accept headlines like that. Maybe not, maybe not in the immediate future, but years from now. Just like Gosnell was allowed to operate for decades because of a compliant political establishment, the health department, and the people who were responsible for policing this man gave him their imprimatur of acceptance, because he was he was basically, because they supported abortion. I mean, Tom Ridge was a pro-abortion governor, and that's why he was allowed to operate. And the same thing is happening right now in New York State. And again, it's has nothing to do with women's health, because this actually endangers women's health. At least two women were killed or murdered by Kermit Gosnell, or or one of them was murdered by the people who were under him, the unlicensed, uneducated drug addicts who worked for him. And dozens of women developed fistulas, developed life-threatening diseases. A couple of them were nearly killed. And this is something that's going to happen if it's not happening already in New York State, because it's simply because of money. Money, and there are people who just enjoy, um, revel in evil. Those, that's the only explanation. And New Yorkers, this is what you voted for. So